A question I get asked all the time is, Justin, how do you never run out of things to ask? And honestly, I think that's the wrong question because I almost never know what I'm going to ask next. Most of my interviews aren't planned question by question. I simply listen. I notice something interesting and I follow it. In fact, if you're constantly running out of things to say, I don't think your problem is conversation. I think your problem is listening. Now, let me show you what I mean, because I want to preface this by saying this is something I had to learn from my mentor and good friend, Evan Carmichael. We actually made a video back in 2024 called 25 Questions from the 25-Year-Old. Most people think great interviewers have hundreds of questions prepared, and I did too. When we were thinking of making this video, I actually had 25 questions prepared until Evan said, bro, just ask the first question and then pull on the strings as we go. And it reinforced his philosophy that the best questions are the follow-up questions. And he said something to me that day that I'll never forget. When it comes to coming up with questions, the best questions to ask are the questions that you are genuinely curious about. It's not about trying to ask questions that you believe the audience will want to hear. It's not about asking questions that you think will get the most views or the best reactions from the guest. It's about you genuinely asking a question that you care about. Now, here's an example. Let's imagine I ask someone, why did you start your business? And they respond, honestly, I wanted more freedom. Most interviewers hear the answer, check it off and move on. Cool, next question. But now I hear 5 different conversations inside that one sentence, and it's your job to note them down visually. Freedom. Why freedom? Freedom from what? When did you realize you wanted freedom? What does freedom look like? See, one sentence, 5 new conversations. And that's why I always say every answer contains another question. Now, I want to talk about the branch method. Imagine every answer your guest gives you is like a trunk of a tree. Every branch leads somewhere different. Your job isn't deciding where the conversation goes before it starts. Your job is choosing which branch to climb. Now, let me show you how this actually works. Let's go back to the example. I asked someone, why did you start your business? And they respond, honestly, I wanted more freedom. Your job isn't just to ask another question. It's choosing which branch to explore. The first branch is the story branch. This is where you ask yourself, okay, what actually happened? Because stories are always more interesting than statements. Instead of accepting, I want more freedom, I would ask, can you take me back to that moment? What was happening in your life? What made you realize that you wanted something different? Notice what I'm doing. I'm taking them from a statement into a story because stories are where people connect. The second branch is the emotion branch. This one is my favorite because emotions are what people remember. Once I understand what happened, I want to understand how they experienced it. I'll ask things like, how did that make you feel? What was going through your mind? Were you scared? Were you excited? Did you ever doubt yourself? Facts tell us what happened, emotions tell us why it mattered, and that's where conversations start becoming real. The third branch is the belief branch. This is where we move beyond the story and start uncovering perspective. I'll ask questions like, what did that experience teach you? How did it change the way you see the world? What belief came out of that experience? Because every major life experience leaves us with a new belief. And sometimes it's positive ones, sometimes it's a limiting one, but understanding what someone believes helps you understand who they are. The fourth branch is the decision branch. Every great story has a turning point, a moment where someone decides, I can't keep doing this, or I'm going all in. That's the moment I want to find. So I'll ask, what changed after that? What decisions did you make? Was there a moment where everything shifted? Because decisions shape our lives, and understanding someone's decision helps us understand their journey. And finally, we have the future branch. This is where we zoom out. We've talked about the story. We've talked about the emotion. We've talked about the lesson. Now I want to understand the impact. And I'll ask questions like, how has this shaped who you are today? Or do you still think about that experience? How has that changed the way you lead your business? How has that changed your relationships? Because the best conversations don't just help us understand someone's past, they help us understand the person that they've become. And here's the beautiful part. Notice that I never needed another question prepared. I didn't have to think, what do I ask next? The answer gave me everything I needed. Every response creates new branches. Every branch leads to another story. Every story leads to another lesson. And that's why I say you'll never run out of things to say if you never stop being curious. The philosophy that I got from Evan Carmichael is the pull on strings method. Imagine every answer your guest gives you has a little string hanging off of it. A great interviewer notices those strings and gently pulls on them. Let me show you. A guest will say, "I almost quit." Pull. Why? Guest will say, "I lost all my money." Pull. What was going through your mind? And the guest will say, "Honestly, I thought I was a failure." You keep pulling. What made you keep going? Pull again. What did you learn? You could pull again. What would you tell someone that's in your position today? See what happened? We didn't ask 5 random questions. We followed one story. That's where the magic happens. Now, like I said in the beginning of this video, most people ask, "What's my next question?" Great interviewers ask, "What am I most curious about?" That's a completely different way of thinking because curiosity naturally creates better questions. Conversations don't die because you run out of things to ask. They die because you stop paying attention. The guest gives you gold, and instead of digging, you move on. The greatest stories, the deepest lessons, the most emotional moments, they're almost always hiding in the follow-up. So if you're worried about running out of things to say, stop memorizing questions, start listening for opportunities. Every answer contains another question. Every story contains another lesson. Every conversation has another branch to explore. Your job is simply deciding which string to pull. Now, I have a challenge for you. The next conversation you have, don't worry about your next question. Instead, listen until you hear one interesting thread. Then ask 3 follow-up questions about that one thing. I promise you'll have a better conversation than you've ever had before. And if you do, come back to this video and let me know how it went. If you learned something and liked what you heard here today, check out the last video where I talk about everyone has a story. Most people just never ask the right questions. I'm breaking down everything I've learned about high-value conversations, how to ask better questions, how to make people open up, how to never run out of things to say, how to create conversation that people actually remember. So if that sounds interesting, hit that subscribe button because we've got a lot to cover.